So in this video, we're going to be implementing the update product endpoint. We're going to be implementing it so it uses the DB. So we're going to go in the product service, and I'm going to have another method, public, that's going to return a product in our case. And actually, let's return an optional of a, let's see actually how we had it implemented. So yeah, we are checking for empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually not gonna do that because we're gonna use the check that we just created, exists by ID. So now let's return a product, and I'm gonna say update product. Now this is gonna receive a product that we wanna update. And now what are we gonna do? So we're first gonna fetch the product from the DB that we want to update. So how are we gonna do that? So I'm going to take the product repository, and I'm going to say find by ID, and I'm going to take the product and the ID. I'm going to save this into a variable right here. So I'm going to save it into a variable right over here. And let's just call it product optional. Okay. And now let's actually return an optional. Let's actually return an optional here. Let's do it like that. So we're gonna say we're gonna return an optional. So now, if the product optional is empty, then we want to return an empty optional back. So I'm gonna say optional.empty. So if that product doesn't exist by that ID, we're returning back an empty optional. Otherwise, we're getting the entity, so product entity, product to update, equals product optional dot get. So we're getting it, and now we have to update both of the values to our product. So now we're gonna say product to update dot set name, and we're gonna set it to the new name that we receive in the product here. And also we're going to do the same for the description. So product to update dot set description, I'm going to say product dot get description. And after we've updated the product, we're going to have to save it to the DB. So now I'm going to say product JPA repository dot save, and I'm going to save the product to update to the DB. Now, what's going to happen? This is going to save the product, and it's also going to return it. So it's also going to return it. So we can kind of do this response as we previously did when we implemented the add a product. So I'm going to also have this here as a local variable. Say updated product, I'm going to say. So the save method will return the updated product, and I will use the updated product and return it back as wrap it in an optional first, optional of product response. So what's happening? Let's take a look. We are first trying to find the product by that ID, and then we are doing a check. If that product is not present, so if the optional is empty, we are returning an empty optional. Otherwise, we're getting it out of the optional. We're updating the name and the description. We're saving it to the DB, and then we're creating a response. Okay, and then we're gonna go into the controller, and instead of doing this kind of checks here, instead of taking it like this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and say that we're not going to need this check. I'm going to say product optional, and I'm going to say product service dot update product, and I'm just going to put the request right there. And then if this is empty, then we do 404. Otherwise, we just get it out of the optional and return the updated product. So as you can see, now we've completely implemented all of the endpoints here to use the actual database in the actual repository, so I can completely remove this static list from this controller as we're no longer using it. So right now the update method should actually call the service which does the checking, and then it will actually update the product and save it to the DB. So let's restart the application and let's test it out. Let's test that endpoint out. So I'm just restarting it right now, and we're gonna go to Postman, we're gonna go to this endpoint, and we're gonna call the endpoint and see if we can update a product. So let's see now, let's list all the products. So as you can see, we have one product. I'm gonna go ahead and update it. So I'm gonna go to the update route, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna be updating basically right here. We wanna specify the ID that we are updating. So I'm updating the product with ID 1. And let's say that I wanna update, I don't know, let's say that I'm gonna change the name. It's gonna be updated name. And I'm gonna change the description to be updated description. I'm gonna click send. That's gonna get executed. We are getting back the updated product. So now if I list all the products, now this product, as you can see, it's changed. The name and the description was updated. So we've successfully updated the product. So that's how we've implemented it until now. So we have a JPA repository. Let's take a look at what we have. So we have an entity, which is a product entity. We have a repository, which is a JPA repository, which we by default get methods to. By default, we get methods that we can straight ahead use. So we are injecting this JPA repository into our service right over here at the top, using a constructor-based dependency injection. And this service is annotated with the service. The service is getting injected into our controller. And in the controller, we're using that service and we're calling it in our endpoints here and doing all the operations. So now that's going to be it for this video.